everybody, to a cranky edition of the Rockpile Report podcast. I'm your host, Bill, season ticket holder Drew Gear. That's my producer, Chris Kruger, and hopefully we're going to get through this together, guys, because we're here talking about the fall of the last unbeaten NFL football teams, the New England Patriots. Ruin our send-off, just absolutely ruin our send-off for Ralph Wilson Stadium. The Buffalo Bills fall to the New England Patriots, and man, Chris, you know, I was thinking about this week. This season, and I want you to kind of run with this for a second. I want you to think back over all the years of tailgating we've had. So far this season, it's supposed to be a farewell to the stadium. It's supposed to be the last season in Ralph Wilson. Everything's going to be great. It's going to be all of these things that everybody's infatuated with that the Buffalo Bills can and maybe still can be, even after kind of an inauspicious start to the year. But I remember one of the hallmarks of the drought was that the tailgates were more fun than watching the games. The tailgates during the drought were always more fun than sitting inside the stadium watching the game. That was one of the cardinal signs that you're in a drought era. So with that in mind, and maybe this isn't, I don't know, maybe this isn't the team's fault, but I feel like we've had more fun at our tailgates this year than I have had sitting in the stadium watching each one of these games.
I'll rank the tailgates for you. We'll start with least. I don't want to say least. They're all enjoyable, but if I'm ranking tailgates, Saints game because we didn't have enough time. It was a 1:00 kick. Then home openers is after that. Thursday night would be second, and then Sunday night Patriots. By far the best tailgate. Dude, I made 6 bottles of cocktails, 4 old-fashioned, 2 Manhattans, and then Robert Sullivan brought us a bottle of E.H. Taylor to the tailgate, which probably had 2 pours left in it when we went into the stadium. And we drank 5 bottles of cocktails. It was an insane day. I didn't think we would be drinking as much as we did peak day, like 2 to 5, because it was, for October, it was hot as shit out there.
This was one of the better weekends we've had out there in the parking lot. One of the things that I love are the people who chime in and go, oh, we've had enough of tailgate talk. You don't understand. I've had to sit there through a Ravens game that was incredibly frustrating. And then I watched them play a Saints team that I thought they had all the tools to dog walk. And then it just didn't happen, right? Like it just didn't occur that way. And then they went up against a Dolphins team that I thought was fairly rudderless, and they let them hang around a lot longer than I thought they should have. And it's crazy to say it out loud, but I guess the thing is the games aren't fun to watch. When you're watching them, at no point are you like, oh man, I'm so happy. Like there's more anxiety to it, I think. And that's what's driving some of that. But so you're not I don't feel the same emotion that I felt when I was last year watching them kind of romp early on. Remember the time, I think it was our home opener, we just absolutely just beat the hell out of the Tennessee Titans. And it was fun. The game was a party. You don't have to boat race your opponent, though. There's games where you can play a good game, but be the better football team, which your salary cap expenditure, your draft capital investment choices, like everything says you should be the better team. And yet you're watching them, oh, that team stinks. Why are they still in the game with my team in the fourth quarter? There's been some really frustrating football played inside Ralph Wilson Stadium this year, and I don't know why it's a bad thing to talk about it.
We're 44% through our home games for the year, and I haven't had that feeling of like, oh, this is a party. We're just in here watching backyard football, Josh Allen throwing the ball over the field. Nothing's in doubt. I mean, even that Dolphin game, which was probably the least, you had the feeling of, oh, the Dolphins are in this, probably the least. You had that feeling with the Saints more so than the Dolphins, where Saints they find a way, they might take this. But I enjoy a boat race game, and unfortunately,
they haven't given us one yet.
We didn't get
We're
one.
still
on
waiting,
Sunday.
and I'm starting to doubt whether or not they're capable of it, which is a problem if you're trying to paint yourself as the AFC favorite. But enough about that. Let's talk about the gorgeous day that we had out there, because again, the tailgates have become more fun. The tailgates have kind of become more fun than watching the games, and maybe some of that's just because we've gotten really good at it. You know, giant shout out to everybody who showed up to the Palmers and Q42 tailgate this weekend. It was a gorgeous day. You know, a new friend named Eddie, who literally ran into me at dinner on Friday night, was at our tailgate Sunday morning. Hell of a thing. Small world. I love it. Scott Vesley, he's the man. You know, his wife rules. They come all the way from Nebraska. He's just a dude, and I love seeing him every time he comes in. Not just because you bring us delicious jerky either. Chris, show him the size of the satchel. Scott, I'll tell you what.
It's not a satchel. It's just a plastic bag filled with jerky.
I had Chris's in my fridge, and I brought it to him today, and I flat out told him, I go, if I'd given this to you on game day, you would have eaten half of it by now. Also, nobody who was capable of streaming the Yankees game showed up to our tailgate, so there was no baseball. Disappointing, weird, funny how, it's a real tragedy. It's funny how that happens. I don't think I'm out of pocket when I say that it might be one of the best days of tailgating I've had in at least a calendar year. Is that fair? Yeah. Top to bottom. Think about the crew. My father showed up. My Uncle Brad showed up. We had a great time.
I saw I didn't even say hello to your dad, and I just handed him a Manhattan. He was like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yep. But then he drank it, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
But the guy who really pulled it all together in this week's Hero of the Week is our friend Tony from Certified Angus.
Don't take it personally, all right? Franchise star players are a lot like Highlanders. There can only be one.
Guys, I want to tell you a little bit about Tony from Certified Angus. He is a nationally renowned chef. This guy has cooked for royalty. He's a culinary teacher. He travels around the country on behalf of Certified Angus, teaching butcher shops how to prepare their meat, what to do with it, how to sell value to their customers. The man is a savant, and he was at our tailgate cooking on a Korean grill, making high-end food. And one of the coolest things about getting to meet a guy of that caliber, when you meet a guy who can cook that well, when he appreciates you and what you're doing. From his lips to God's ears, he goes, it's crazy because usually when I go places and I do these things, I'm the spectacle. He goes, and instead, you guys were right there next to me, pumping out crazy stuff. It was such a good day of cooking and serving people just really high-end food in a parking lot. I mean, Chris, have you eaten that good at a tailgate of ours ever?
I haven't. It was the street tacos that he made were phenomenal. Everything that was put out was phenomenal. And what I like is that you and Iman, I was telling people, as I'm trying to get people to come to the tailgate, I'm like, we're not doing anything stupid. Iman hadn't made jambalaya in a couple years. So Iman and you are not cooking dishes this past Sunday, the things that you haven't done in 2 to 3 years. You're bringing out, it's like going to see the Stones.
A-game.
You're going to see the Stones. We're gonna open up with Paint It Black, Symphony for the Devil. We're coming out with all the hits, bang, 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 because Palmer's is coming, and it was a hell of a time.
I more wanted to show off for Tony, and it worked. I've got his phone number now, and it's awesome. He's also a New England Patriots fan, and I was quietly happy he got to see his team win after the year that they had last year, and just how cool of a dude he is. And also a huge shout out to the Palmer's crew for helping make all of that possible. And adding something really special to our tailgate and introducing me to one of the best people I've ever watched grill with my own 2 eyes. It was amazing. Tony was amazing. The day was incredible. He ended up giving me a whole bunch of swag. Chris, I've got, I was, after the game when I got home.
Certified Angus beef gloves.
Here's my favorite. Guys, after the game was over, I unpacked the truck. Chris goes home. My wife goes to bed. I'm kind of fixing up all the tailgate stuff in the garage. And I just put I took my shirt off and then put the Certified Angus apron on. And I just walked around my house shirtless in cargo shorts, just drinking whiskey for about an hour and a half. It doesn't get much better than that. Not after a game like we witnessed against the New England Patriots. So that brings us to our Week 5 recap. The Patriots 23, the Bills 20. Let me run down the numbers for you. Drake Maye and Josh Allen. Drake Maye, 22 of 30 for 273. No touchdowns, but no picks. 4 sacks and a 101.1 passer rating. Josh Allen, 22 of 31, 253 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, 1 sack, a 103.3 passer rating. Okay? Where am I here? Here we go. Wide receiver Stephon Diggs, 10 catches, 146 yards. Bills wide receivers Josh Palmer, Elijah Moore, and Curtis Samuel. 10 catches, 131 yards and a touchdown.
I thought Elijah Moore.
Since week 3!
I was just saying, I thought Elijah Moore didn't play on Sunday.
Since week 3! The Buffalo Bills trio of Josh Palmer, Elijah Moore, and Curtis Samuel. 10 catches, 131 yards and a touchdown. Stephon Diggs wailed on those guys in a single game. Patriots running backs, 22 carries, 71 yards and a touchdown. Bills running backs, 29 carries, 118 yards, no touchdowns, breaking James Cook's touchdown streak, which I think is disappointing. And then Chris, notable numbers. Okay. 7.
Christian Gonzalez.
So the number of Bills players who missed a tackle in this game. 7 different instances of missed tackles. The number 4.
4 is James Cook.
Number 4. 4 is Andrew Barber. What's with the toothpick? No, I'm literally because I'm eating jerky on a podcast because I'm a professional. And that's what you do. You eat at the microphone. The number 4 is the number of drives it took either team to put up points in this game. We went 8 total possessions before a single point got scored.
We talked during the game in the stands. We were like, is this going to be a 6-3 Cleveland game?
I was like, don't you wish that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. Don't you do it to me. And then the number 219.
A luxurious highway on the way to Ellicottville.
It's the number of slurs I yelled out about Sean Hockley over the course of this game.
Do you start with a fan behind you?
Guys, we have a problem. And when I say we, I don't mean the Buffalo Bills. I mean we as the community of NFL football watchers who enjoy the sport and who know the rules and understand how it's supposed to be played. We have a problem. See, back in the early years of this podcast, it was 2016. It was over the summer. I watched the Bills play the Washington Commanders in a preseason game. Now, usually it's hard to get your hackles up about a preseason game. Chris, how many people do you know scream at the top of their lungs in the middle of a preseason game?
I've seen you do it before.
Sure. Besides me. Think about that. Take my lunatic nature out of the equation. How many people get angry about preseason football?
It's probably our fan base that align with your views watching football.
Guys, this Blue Note honey rye, unbelievable.
Yeah, you like that? You punch with the honey and then it just tapers off.
It's 116 proof and it's sweet. It actually is soft on my palate. So the podcast the following week after that, I was just incensed. I lost my damn mind. I know it's kind of my normal state, but that week I was extra fired up. And I went into my bag and did what I do when I'm angry. I start crunching numbers and I start pulling history. Do you want to know why, Chris? Do you remember? I'll tell you. The game was unwatchable. It was an unwatchable preseason experience. Now, we're talking about the 2016 Bills. They weren't good. But that wasn't the problem, right? It wasn't EJ Manuel being bad. You know, no touchdowns, 1 pick, and a pair of sacks that he just took right to the face. That wasn't my problem. I didn't have beef with that. Running back Jonathan Williams cracking off 1 37-yard run and then getting 10 more handoffs for 5 total yards. No, not even that could chap my ass.
That checks out.
What got me just livid about all of this, the Bills finished that game with 13 penalties for 104 yards. The Commanders finished that game with 10 penalties for 87 yards. For those of you doing the math at home, 23 penalties for 191 total yards in a preseason game, which added 19 extra minutes of actual real time to the length of the game. Just an unnecessarily long, steaming pile of over-officious ass took place in that game. You had almost 200 total yards of penalties, and both teams hit double digits somehow. Do you know that it hasn't happened in the preseason since then?
You know, my only recollection of Washington Redskins football in the preseason, I went to a preseason game at Hudson Grill in Midtown Atlanta and watched the Bills and Redskins play with Chad Michael Murray. So,
guess who the official of the game that I was flipping out about was, Chris?
Sean Hockley.
No, it was his father, Ed Hockley. Ed Hockley, the only official in my lifetime bad enough at his job to get suspended for making egregiously poor calls. It's the only, Chris, name me another official who made a call so bad they got suspended by the league.
You know, right now I'm thinking about the guy that the Bills employ to challenge penalties who's not good at doing that, and he's a former official. I can't... His name escapes me. Somebody in the comments let me know that official that works for the Bills.
Now, we all, like, Ed Hockley jumped the shark. He set the preseason record for penalties called in a game since 2016. And, like, we all know that he sucks and that he loves his face being on TV, but that game broke the levee for me. And so I started crunching the numbers, and I found out that if Ed Hockley had refereed every game the prior season, just given the average number of flags he throws per game, how all the numbers spin off, he would have added 139 yards to every single NFL team's annual total. Broken up over the course of a couple weeks, that's an extra 20 yards per game. Chris, a 10-yard penalty might be the difference between winning and losing a tight football game.
Yes. John Perry, that's the ref that works for us.
So you have this guy who is out here changing the outcomes of games with his poor officiating. Fast forward, and somehow that bloodline is still out here tainting my sport. You, as the Hockley family, are like the O'Doyles. Like, the apple has not fallen far from the idiot tree in this instance. Ed's son, Sean, is out here somehow being worse than his father and butchering the game of football in front of all of us. And it blows my mind. Like, let's look at the numbers, Chris. Do you know that he has, right now, through, 5 weeks, the second most flags thrown in the NFL? The second most, 100. His crew throws 20 flags per game. They're second in the league in flags thrown. They have to get picked up. Oh, well, we threw a flag because we thought we saw a penalty, but then the sky judge called in and was like, hey, knock it off. That's not a penalty. If you break down all 100 flags, which I did, because last night I was still fucking angry about this, and I was pissed. I started digging into the numbers, which is what I do, and I have an Excel document that I'm opening right now called Hockley Sucks. And now I'm pulling it up here. When you look at the data and you start to do some trend analysis, a couple things jump off the page at you, right? His crew is obsessed this season with the line of scrimmage and trench penalties. He's thrown 13 false start flags in 5 games, 9 defensive offsides. He's called offensive holding 19 times. Chris, quick math. What's 19 divided by 5?
Just over 3.
So he's calling holding on the offense 3 times at least a game, and that's just the accepted penalties. That's not even the ones that get picked up after someone with a pulse in New York gets on the phone and goes, Sean, knock it off. That wasn't holding. It's brutal. And what's worse is that after this week, the Bills are the team that he is now in one game officiated by Sean Hockley, the Buffalo Bills are now the most penalized team in a number of his categories. Offensive holding, offensive pass interference, and illegal formation. Chris, it's almost as if somebody had an agenda to completely derail what was going on with our offense.
Yes.
Oh, hey, we got to slow down offensive production for a giant chunk of the first half. And here's what sucks about all of this. You can sit here and you can say, okay, Drew, this is sour grapes. You're kind of being a complainer. You're being a whiner, what have you. Elena Gatzenberg from ESPN. Per ESPN research, the Bills' 8 accepted penalties, and this was 9:58 p.m. Okay? 9:58 p.m. on game night. The Bills' 8 accepted penalties are tied for the second most in the first half of a game under Sean McDermott, except for 2023 Week 12 at the Eagles when they got called for 10 penalties in the first half. Chris, drumroll. Who was the official of that game?
Ed Hockley's mother.
I don't know what to... Guys, this isn't... There's some things where we as fans will bitch and we will gripe and we will complain about dynamics of the sport we don't like. But then there's something when you see it on paper and you crunch the numbers and you go, this is absurd. There is no way that you're doing this multiple times a season to the same team. And if I take your season-long data from last year, there's no other team like Buffalo who gets singled out in these moments by Sean Hockley. He's over-officious, but it's never concentrated the way that it has been the last 2 times Sean Hockley has reffed our games. It's absurd. And it's borderline, like you're either doing it and allowing it as a league and it's intentional, or you're just so inept and so feckless you can't do anything about it. Both of them are wildly offensive to me as somebody who pays a lot of money to go see these games. Like, guys in the chat, does it shock you to know that the Buffalo Bills somehow draw the ire of Sean Hockley to a degree that they become one of his most penalized teams in terms of offensive penalties specific to the offense? It's not defensive pass interference. He's not giving the opposing offense yardage down the field. He's not encouraged. There's no encouragement by his crew to throw flags on our defense. It's always focused on our offense. That seems specific, doesn't it? Like, am I being crazy, or does anybody else feel this way after they see it out there? Because I've looked at the numbers and now I'm even more offended than I was sitting in the seats on Sunday night.
And we don't know who's officiating Atlanta yet, do we? Right? Could be Hockley. 2 weeks in a row.
I'll tell you what. At that point, so I said a lot of really ugly things. Like, one of my things was, how do we fix this if the NFL won't? During the game, I said a lot of things about Sean Hockley. And local evening news, Drew is the Diesel to Chris's HBK sexy boy gimmick. Yeah, that's bad. But yeah, when you think about this, like, Chris, like, I just looked at some of the metrics where the Bills lead in, and it's terrible. He called it like illegal contact. Okay, we're in every one of these categories, but offensive holding, he called it more on us than anybody else, and it's been one game. That's crazy. This stuff is absurd. You can't make this up. He's a stain. His whole family is. And so then I started drawing comparisons to the O'Doyles from Billy Madison. And I started saying, listen, Ed Hockley, Sean Hockley, we can't let this continue. And I maybe said some things about chemical castration. I maybe said some things about human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. You know the drill. What I know is that Sean Hockley might be one of the biggest hacks of an NFL official I've ever seen, and there's a clear agenda when it comes to the Buffalo Bills. You can't argue that there isn't. And I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how the league fixes it, but they need to because the games he officiate run over their time. Chris, you don't think the networks don't get annoyed by that?
That's probably true.
Like, you can't throw that many flags in a game and not have it turn into a problem. When you look at the penalties from that game, the worst part is it wasn't just us. It eventually, towards the back end of the game, came all the way around and got the Patriots. And everyone's like, oh, well, we feel better about it. Because when I look at the penalties, Chris, we took 11 for 90 yards. The Patriots had 8 for 93. So they were just as heavily penalized in terms of yardage as we were, and they earned some of those. But at the same time, you threw 19 penalties in a single football game. Dude, what are you doing? What is the game of football now? That's a dynamic that I just really struggled to get past. And I don't know. The league has a hockey league problem, and I don't know what to do about it. I don't think they know what to do about it. Hopefully they find a solution. Now, in the tweet that I put out about tonight's show, I told you a little bit about what tonight was going to be about. There's a lot of people, if I'm going to recap the actual game action, you've already had the Cover Ones of the world breakdown. They've given you really salient talking points, X's and O's. They've blown kisses at you guys and told you all it's going to be okay. And I still think it might be. We're going to talk about why, but we are the pettiest, hardest drinking Bills podcast. I'm going to tell you people have it much, much, much worse than we do. And we're going to punch down because that's what we do, Chris. That's what bad people do. In times of strife, you punch down. But I want to talk about the not blameless Brandon Beane in all of this. First of all, God bless the WGR guys, because Derek Kramer had this tweet. He had this tweet, and it made me laugh really, really hard. He goes, I think the overtime show tonight is just going to be me asking my producer to play fart sounds all night. And that's a hilarious thing to throw out there. Just as the guy who has to go on air and talk to the public after a game like that. That's what drove me to call in one time and call Nate Geary and just give him an absurd talking point that I didn't even really believe in. I just needed to give him a lifeline so he could talk for 10 minutes and not need to take a caller. So many of the team's problems on offense, problems on defense, they have issues, real tangible issues. And you can be mad at the players for not executing, but a lot of it boils down to a roster that's doing exactly on paper what it should be doing. It's the frog and the scorpion equation. The players are doing exactly what they should be, and I'm sorry that you as a franchise thought that they should be doing something better. People talk about separation all week long. Keon Coleman got 1.94 yards of average separation this week, and Joshua Palmer got 1.97 yards of average separation. Now, Joe Brady doesn't seem to be concerned. He said in his post-game press conference that these things will happen, and that's probably the best cornerback tandem we're going to see all year. And I go, okay, I'm not mad, but I would like to point out that just to give you guys some context in the chat, for those of you watching live, for those of you listening at home, and for Chris with your stupid haircut, there are 128 NFL wide receivers who've qualified for tracking via Next Gen Stats, and the bar is set pretty low. Through 5 games, all you need is 13 targets. Of those, there are only 8 wide receivers who have averaged less than 2 yards of average separation to this point in the season. That means that across the entire NFL, there are 120 wide receivers who are doing a better job at getting separation than what we saw out of Keon Coleman and Joshua Palmer on the outside on Sunday night. You're not even average. You're in the basement of your position group across the NFL. There's no way to reconcile that. And for all the people who want to make excuses for it or try to find, like, well, you're not looking at it from this angle. There's no good angle to look at it from. But I'm not here to punt. I'm not mad about it. I'm just pointing out neither of these players were separation artists. They're not speedsters. They're not elite route runners. They're just dudes. Dudes who do some football things really well. They run block really well. They're good for your offense when you're running the football. And as a run-first football team, I understand why you want that. But Jesus, you've got to find better. You have to, right? And I guess it's what we should have expected, considering how bad they were last year in separation. They're doing better, but not by much, especially when they go up against really talented cornerbacks like Carlton Davis and Christian Gonzalez. And then the guys that do get separation, because there are guys. Dalton Kincaid does a good job. Khalil Shakir does a good job. Curtis Samuel in this game had a ton of separation, mostly on that one play where he was alone in the end zone. But those are stats, and again, some of these are stats in a vacuum, and you have to think about that. What was happening to your offensive line? What was happening to your quarterback? When Curtis Samuel is alone in the end zone, people want a Monday morning quarterback that play, and they talk about how that's the reason they're angry. First of all, you're not good at being petty or angry because you got to be justified a lot of the time, or at least you have to have a basis in reality. Curtis Samuel wide open in the left-hand corner of the end zone when Josh Allen has been flushed out of the pocket to the right. It doesn't matter. Chris, you look like you were about to say something.
Chat's just popping off, and you're going right past it as usual.
Well, I'm looking over here. You're the host. You're the host. I mean, you're the producer. You tell me what's funny over here.
Well, Ryan just chimed in. If you squint real tight, put on sunglasses, then turn the lights off, close the laptop, you can see the separation the wide receiver room gets.
Yes. See, that's what we're about. We are the Pettiest Bills podcast. You are the Pettiest Bills podcast fan base. Let's have you now. That was a great one. Who else is bringing some heat? What do we got in there, Chris?
I mean, Collector Art House is all over the chat. He didn't know that we were live. We did a live show. So every Tuesday, 8 o'clock, come join us.
Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. You'll get all those notifications.
Yeah, we did lose 2 subscribers because of probably some. It's wild that Drew would say something wild on Twitter about Sunday night's game, and then somebody takes the extra step to go to our YouTube and unsubscribe. So we were 102 away from 1,000, which we need to access some super chats people have given us. But Drew set us back 2 subscribers with his.
Guys, I'm not going to lie to you.
Thoughts.
My anger over Sean Hockley was so bombastic that there was a grown man, my own age, probably in his 40s because he had some gray in his beard. And I said so many awful things about Sean Hockley during that game.
Oh, yeah, the guy behind us.
Later in the game, he had a Blue Jays hat on, so he's probably Canadian, which makes sense. He's probably very polite.
Yeah.
And he was not prepared for what I was about to, the tirade I went on. And so then I turned around at one point, like the Bills scored, and I turned around to fist bump all the people behind me, and that guy would not fist bump me. And I don't know why it struck me. So then, like, after the play settled down, I turn around and I go, hey, fist bump. And he's like, no. Nope. And I go, what is it? And he goes, you said some really unforgivable things. And I was like, wait, we're unforgivable? This is my light work. What are you talking about? I've said far worse things. Where have you been? Oh, it was very funny. I made a grown man upset about my just horrific just onslaught of detritus for Sean Hockley on Sunday. So you get outside of the separation conversation. Let's talk about defensive liabilities and why it's a feature, not a bug. Okay.
We've been popping off about that in the chat.
Okay. Tana Wanstead. That's my new name for Bobby Babich. He is the Tonawanda version of Dave Wanstead. He's got a stupid chain. All he needs to do is grow that stupid
hangs
mustache.
Out at Caputi's.
I guarantee you he's at Caputi's for ladies' night on Tuesdays. And he will be called this henceforth until he gets his house in order on the defensive side of the football. But part of me is also wondering if Tana Wanstead wasn't asked to tread water while holding a cinder block when you look at the makeup of this defense and how it's performing relative to everything around it. We've been talking about how it looks broken and disjointed, and I'm starting to watch, as I rewatch these games, I'm starting to get kind of how Chris, one bad game happens and you go, I don't understand why. And then you go 2 games, 3 games, 4 games. All right, the picture is becoming clearer, and if I can just put it in focus. Well, I've done that a little bit this week between film watching and then also between statistical analysis. I'm not going to lie to you. There's a lot going wrong that you probably should have seen coming, considering how you built this defense. Like, we talk about the decline of Trey White. Trey White got a beating on social media this weekend. Oh, he's washed. Look, he can't cover anyone. He was a dime cornerback for the Ravens last year. That's when he actually looked competent. But nobody's talking about the other geriatrics who are underperforming on this roster. Let's start with Taron Johnson. Taron Johnson, for those of you who have a long memory, wasn't supposed to be a starter in the NFL. If you go back and look at his draft profile, they describe him pretty well as we see him right now in this defensive structure. Size limitations that can create problems for you because of blockers who he can't disengage from. He relies on physicality and coverage more so than nuanced mirroring techniques. He's quick, he's not fast. And a team can mitigate his flaws with good game planning and in-game personnel management around him. That was his draft profile. He has outperformed all of our wildest expectations coming from Weber State. He is a star, and he played on a group that had great linebacker play, great safety play, really good cornerbacks on the outside. And now you're looking at Taron Johnson when he's surrounded by average talent that's kind of dealing with some growing pains. He looks really, really pedestrian. So 2 missed tackles. He now has at least 1 missed tackle in every single game that he's played in this season. He has just 1 blitz attempt all season. They no longer see him as having that get off that allows him to go chase a quarterback. He's given up 100 yards after the catch through 4 games. Do you know that that's his highest total through the first 4 starts of any season since 2021? By a wide margin. Not just like, 5 yards, 3 yards. He's 23 yards of yards after the catch allowed. Higher than the next closest season. He's clearly aging. He led the team in missed tackles on Sunday night. And this is just a week after Terrell Bernard did it the week prior. I think the problem is you thought that status quo would keep just showing up for you week after week after week in the NFL. And this season, a lot of your older talent is starting to show you that, hey, unless everything else is in lockstep, I am just the kind of average guy you got to steal on in the draft. You know, people have been complaining about, Chris, you want to talk about things not going well in the middle, Terrell Bernard? Let's talk about Matt Milano. That's aging like milk.
Joe Fryer in the comments here up at the top. Between the injuries and the players that are suspended, the D is kind of a cobbled mess. Makes sense.
Cobbled mess. Matt Milano hasn't played more than 86% of the snaps in any game. In his last 2, it was less than 58. He has 1 tackle for loss on the entire season in the 3 games that he's been a part of. And who knows when we're going to see him again. He's got 1 single quarterback pressure on the season. And this is where you start to talk about aged players and what it does to you. Because we've been sitting here scratching our heads as fans going, why the hell can't this thing work? How about this, Chris? Do you know that he has only rushed from the A-gap 1 time this entire season?
So he's losing left to right speed?
The Sean McDermott defense used to be heavily predicated on bringing your linebackers down into the A and B gap pre-snap. And then sometimes you send both. Sometimes you send one, and sometimes you send neither. And it used to give quarterbacks fits. Young quarterbacks would have to make a decision as to, okay, I got to be able to tell which one of these guys are coming, or I just have to guess. And I have to try to shift my protection and my routes, and I'm trying to audible because I see pressure in my face. And then sometimes they might just bail out. And because they're super athletic, whether it was Terrell Bernard or whether it was Tremaine Edmonds and it was Matt Milano, they could drop to depth very quickly from the line of scrimmage. And so now you as a quarterback have to hold the ball for an extra second and go, shit, I thought they were coming on the pass rush. Matt Milano has not been lined up in the A gap as a blitzer and actually gone after the quarterback more than once this entire season, which tells you that they don't think he can do it anymore. Or at least Bobby Babich is trying to do different things. And what you're finding out is if you skew the recipe and you go, hey, I don't need Matt Milano doing the thing that's made him successful this entire time. The defensive structure is starting to break down around it. You're exposing Taron Johnson. You're exposing Terrell Bernard. You're exposing Matt Milano. And these are all problems. They're all problems in processing. Okay? It's taken you away from a team that used to be able to plug and play guys off the street like AJ Klein. And you go, oh, see, we're fine. We got a linebacker. He's creating pressure. This is all good. We won a playoff game and everything was good. It's because you're no longer playing the same defensive structure. Schematically, you've stopped being who you've been all these years that you were successful. And that is what you signed up for when you built this roster. Also, look at the defensive line, Chris. Your star defensive end, Joey Bosa. Great. He's giving you all this pass rush production, which is why you signed him. Also, you're playing him more than 70% of your snaps. For a team that rotates DNs, or at least is supposed to, that's a fucking problem, and I'll tell you why. Do you know that Joey Bosa's career high for missed tackles in a single season was 13? Career high. Joey Bosa has been in the NFL for a long time. His career high for a single season for missed tackles was 13. He's currently leading the Bills with 7 missed tackles through 5 games. The sky's the limit here, and that's terrifying.
But he is not injured.
Oh, good, you're healthy. You're just not tackling people. And worse, his almost refusal to set an edge properly. The fact that he keeps cheating inside the offensive formation and letting the tackle just wall him off because he's cheating inside with his first step. He set up back-to-back week easy touchdowns for our opponents simply because he will not do the job of an edge setter. Chris, it's almost like the Sean McDermott defense needs a guy who will set the edge before they need a guy who will rush the passer.
And if that's people are talking about in the comments right now, it's Balin Spector.
No. So yeah, Spector. Yeah, Spector's our answer to fix all this. Guys, Spector's back. Look, we're all doing well. We're all thriving. I'm going to eat some fucking jerky on a podcast. That's how well this is all going.
Do you have Bosa's snap count for this week? Collector Art House is asking.
So,
was
Joey
it lower?
Bosa.
Because didn't you say Bosa's played 70% in the snaps through the first 4 weeks?
They finally got him down to 55%. It's the first time all year he's played less than 60. AJ Epinesa needs to be your early down defensive end, but the problem is he's productive when you leave him in as a pass rusher. 4 pressures and a sack in a situational pass rusher role for AJ Epinesa. AJ Epinesa found his way to the Joey Bosa role. And that's lunacy to say out loud. I hate it. And I feel like they built this, again, it gives you the feeling that they built this roster without actually thinking about what the roster is. What are these players collectively? They just stuck names together and assumed it would keep working. Then you got 34-year-old Daquan Jones out here playing 74% of your team's snaps. Chris, 34 years old. You're Methuselah by NFL standards.
Yes.
Why are you playing 74% of my snaps?
Where's TJ Sanders?
Oh, he's hurt.
At Oliver?
He's hurt.
Starla Tulele.
Guys, it's brutal. And now, late in the game, for what could have been a game-saving sack, Daquan Jones has been out there for a whole game. I'm not shocked he couldn't clean that up. Once I saw his utilization, I go, oh no, that whiff or his inability to drag Drake Maye down to the ground, that makes perfect sense. There are a lot of things wrong with the Buffalo Bills right now. And so many people want to blame, like, I know I blame Tana Wanstead. And I might even blame Sean McDermott. There's people yelling, oh, fire Sean McDermott. I'll tell you what, though. You'll tell me, and some of you who are optimists, those are the pessimists, right? The pessimists will tell you we need to fire everybody. We hire a new defensive coordinator. That's the answer, blah, 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 blah. The optimists will tell you, hey, we're getting reinforcements. We're going to get a faster cornerback. We're going to get some defensive line help in the form of Larry Ogunjobi and Michael Hoyt after this week and after the bye. Great. You say that. Maybe Matt Milano will come back in a month and he'll give you half a game when it matters, and then we'll see him again in December. I don't know. But you're getting what you bought and paid for. Everything that you signed up for, you are getting. You put in 2 rookie defensive tackles, and they're playing like rookie defensive tackles. Deion Walker has flashed, which is good. That means he's ahead of schedule as a 4th-round pick. You're getting the production that you paid for. And the problem is now the inefficiencies that you're getting are throwing your entire defensive structure into flux, because all of the warts on the guys who used to be serviceable when the phalanx worked. Like this Bills defense under Sean McDermott and Leslie Frazier, when it was at its height, worked like the Spartan phalanx. Everybody covered for everybody. Everybody knew where everyone else was going to be. They were athletic enough they could make plays. Now the problem is we're completely out of structure. Matt Milano can't blitz. You've got an old defensive tackle on the line. You've got all of this stuff, an old slot cornerback who it turns out his lack of athleticism is starting to show because he's 30 years old. And it's all coming to roost very quickly. So now you as a team have to reimagine what you can be. I mean, I'm happy maybe it helps that you have Ryan Nielsen in-house to help them fix this on the fly. But the defense that you've been for the last decade of Bills football, almost decade, since Sean McDermott arrived in Buffalo, is no longer who we are. And I think we as fans need to wash our hands of that concept. The Sean McDermott defense is gone because you've built a roster that can't give you that anymore. Because the pieces that are supposed to support the young guys are supposed to be the ones tent-poling the young kids, but it's actually the other way around. The old guys are the ones that are underperforming, and they need these young guys to step up and save them, and it's just not happening.
Make it seem like at the bye week we have to do a show where we dissect Bean's drafts and go in with when do we start going, Bean could be the problem. How often are we just drafting and signing and trying to build a defensive line room to handle Mahomes? I feel like it's every offseason that's our number one thing that we're doing.
Brendan O'Brien, I'm a realist. Things aren't completely smooth, but there isn't a team in the league that has everything smooth. You're right. They're 4-1. They're coming off a 3-point loss with 3 turnovers and 11 penalties. I'm not overreacting. I'm just saying when you're mad about what's happening to the defense, understand you bought this. You bought the defense. So for the people who are like, well, it's going to get better. I don't know that it will. It might get marginally better if you add better players to it at certain spots. But by and large, the older guys are showing you right now that at this point in their career, the cliff might be closer than I think even our GM thought it would be. And so in that way, Chris, if I had to assign blame anywhere, it was a toss-up between 2 people, and I had to give it to Brandon Bean. He is our zero of the week.
You screwed me up. I thought we were going with a different sound effect.
Nope.
You folks fell on your face. You get an F- in my book.
Now, I want to give an honorable mention to Josh Allen just to prove that I'm not being a complete, I'm not making excuses. Josh Allen had his worst game of the season and his worst game out of the last 10 that I've watched him play. Josh Allen looked like the old Josh we used to watch get tricked, get fooled. He looked erratic. He looked rattled. And part of me goes, well, you know what? You know when the last time I saw this, Chris, was, the last time we played a Vrabel-led Tennessee team? He's done it to us multiple times. Mike Vrabel's a really good coach. And Mike Vrabel has an organization that, they seem to have a process. They seem to understand what they're doing. It's back, right? Like this thing of, hey, in our own division, we can get out coached sometimes. You have to make sure that if you're Sean McDermott, your takeaway from this game should be, I got out coached, and that's okay. I just can't let it happen a second time.
I think McDermott has been coasting the last 2 to 3 years because he hasn't had an equal or better in the coaching department.
It's probably fair.
New England gets Vrabel, who's an adult in the room, although I will say I bet New England shot dice on the plane ride home. Bet that happened. But you have Vrabel, who's an excellent coach and knows how to scheme up his guys, hard-nosed. Vrabel is the second best coach in the league, and I think McDermott has been coasting the last 2 to 3 years, knowing that there hasn't been a coaching equal in the division.
And
he got a wake-up call.
And now exactly. It's a shot across everyone's bow. It's a reminder to Josh Allen what happens when you turn the ball over. Last year during his MVP season, the hallmark of it was the lack of turnovers. Okay? Wonderful. You now, Josh Allen, get to see firsthand what happens when you make one pick, but also your teammates fumble. Your teammates can't hold up their end of the deal. Turnovers will kill you, and it's a reminder for him. For Sean McDermott, it's just, look, man, you need to prepare your team for a lot, and your defense is not as good as you give it credit for, as the guy who helped architect it. And so I have to give an honorable mention to Josh Allen. He played a bad game, but I think Brandon Beane kind of walks away from this going, man, I built this thing, and now I'm the one questioning how I built this roster. You're still going to stick with your rookies. You're not going to change your plan. You have, again, you're always, if you're a GM, it's tough because you're building for the season, but you're also building for the future. But sometimes you have to look at it and go, shit. And now he's going to have to go out there and evaluate the trade market, which has already gotten started because some people are losers. In fact, that's where we're going to spend the next 20 minutes of this show as we close it out, because I want to talk about, whenever the Bills lose, we are petty and we're jerks. I'm not nice. I'm a bad person. I love to punch down. So we bring in the people who have it worse than Bills Mafia for week 5.
Fuck you both. Your lives are so fucking pathetic. I ran a charity $15K to raise awareness for it, you fucking losers.
I want to start with Dolphins fans. Woo! We as Bills fans might think our week was terrible, but was it? We had a 17-point lead against Carolina and lost by 1. Bad? No? Okay. You literally can't make this shit up. The Dolphins had a 17-0 lead, had the game in hand. They were cruising. We were mad about defensive collapses. Imagine how we'd be feeling today if the Carolina Panthers ran for 239 yards and Chris, against a team whose offense has been terrible. Their rushing attack has been god-awful all year. I know, because my fantasy teams are all being weighed down by Chuba Hubbard. That was the worst investment of a high draft pick in the fantasy world I could have made. And then you turn around and you look at the Dolphins offense. 3 weeks ago, you throw a ridiculous interception to end the game against New England and you lose at home. The next week, you throw another stupid interception to cost your team the football game against Buffalo. And then you once again get -7 yards on your final drive of the game and you just lose the game. Like, your offense, Chris, weren't they supposed to have an offensive head coach?
Yes.
Wasn't Tua supposed to be like the most accurate quarterback and they had all these statistics that told me Tua was good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Both of those dynamics would be worth losing my shit as a football fan. But then imagine that this is the speech you get from your head coach at the podium afterwards trying to answer for all of it.
He was really frustrated at the, just like he was as I was, and we talked about the challenge ahead to get ready for the Chargers, and that was kind of the extent of it.
There you go, Mike McDaniel, Miami Dolphins website. How about that? He sounds like a guy like he doesn't know who to talk to update his resume.
I've heard flop. I can hear the flop sweat in that segment of audio. It's crazy how far the Dolphins have fallen with Mike McDaniel at the helm of that team and just how underwhelming they've been. And look where they are now, Chris. They're a 1-win football team that couldn't beat the Panthers. The only team they're capable of beating is the New York Jets. I don't know what happens. Are we officially on Mike McDaniel watch?
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you what, I have 150 units tied up in the fact that he will be the first head coach fired in the NFL. I'm telling you, when you hear Mike McDaniel just umming and uttering, like stammering his way through post-game press conferences, you mean to tell me that's a guy who's a leader of men? How do you walk into the locker room and face your players? How do you I look at Aaron Glenn, his team stinks. At least that guy comes out and says what he has to say and then goes in the locker room as a former player and knows how to address them. You mean to tell me Mike McDaniel gets to just stutter and stumble his way through that post game, and then what? He's going to walk in the locker room, and the whole group of them are just going to respect him. That's cool. They're just going to respect him. I totally get it. They couldn't be more finished than they are right now.
Yes.
Another team that's finished but doesn't seem to know it. You know who I feel bad for is Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase. Imagine thinking they kept T. Higgins around. He's coming back for a second year. We're Batman and Robin. I'm going to have a monster year because this is the last time I'm ever going to have a bona fide wide receiver 1 as my wide receiver 2. And then your team builds a roster so bad that an injury to your quarterback leads you putting up this hilarious stat line. Get it up there. Oh, put it out there, Chris.
There you go. 4 catches, 3 tackles.
All on interceptions that he has to go chase down the defensive player and tackle. I almost snarkily, like if I'm a voter for defensive player of the year, I want to give Lamar, if I was a voter in defensive player of the year for 2025, I would give one single vote to Jamar Chase just for that feat alone. Imagine your offense is so bad that you have to go track down all of the intercepting players because you're the most athletic guy that your offense has. It's hilarious. The Bengals have done so much damage to their franchise. I don't know if they'll fix it for what will be a significant chunk of the rest of Joe Burrow's career.
Well, you know that they just got Flacco from Cleveland. So Joe Flacco went. I just put it in the chat. Joe Flacco went from the worst part of Ohio to the second worst part of Ohio.
Do you think that somewhere Lamar Jackson is watching Joe Flacco get traded to the Bengals, knowing what their situation is, knowing he's about to get his ass kicked? That offensive line is a sieve. They can't pass protect. He might be able to get the ball out a little more intelligently than Jake Browning, but he's not nearly as athletic. And do you think that Lamar Jackson's at home and he sees that pop up on his phone and he goes, because he's thinking about the time that Joe Flacco snubbed him during that playoff game when he was a rookie and he was throwing interceptions. He was just looking for some guidance and Joe Flacco wouldn't help him. Mm-hmm. And he's like, good luck out there, old man. And he flipped to his phone, maybe text one of his buddies and was like, Joe Flacco's about to die. Hilarious. I love it. At least we are not the Bengals, and our window is at least still allegedly open.
It's open as long as Josh Allen's here.
Like, you think about this. Like, think about the trade for Joe Flacco. Does this move the needle for guys like Chase and Higgins? How does Chase feel? When he's sitting there going, wait a minute, so you gave me an inaccurate backup, and now you gave me a statue who is probably just going to check down to Chase Brown a ton.
Yeah, I don't trust Flacco with that Bengals offensive line. He will be a statue, but you're going to have to design quick hitting things to get the ball to Higgins and Chase. They're
going to get him killed is what they're going to do. And speaking of getting killed, like the Oregon Trail, here come the San Diego Chargers. Chris, it seems like it wasn't that long ago. Like we were talking about this finally being the Chargers' year. Hot start to the season, multi-game lead in the AFC West. It was all coming together. Herbert threw for 300 plus yards, and people wanted to anoint them as finally having arrived on offense. And then the thing that happened. Left tackle Joe Alt. Now he's out with injury. Mekhi Becton at right guard. He's missing time. Tight end Will Dissly. He's injured and he's missing time. And then you have a run-first team where you need running backs. It's a real shame, Chris. Did you already put it up there?
Nope.
Oh, please do. Guys, it's a real shame that as of today, running back Hassan Haskins and NFL draft slouch Kamani Vidal are the only running backs on the Chargers roster. Like, it's incredible. For those of you listening at home, Chris just put up a tweet. Najee Harris had never missed a game in his 4-year NFL career. He joins the Chargers and is on. First of all, he gets shot in the eye by something. What, a firework or something?
I have no idea.
And then he was on IR by week 3. Omarion Hampton never missed a collegiate game, on IR by week 5 because you're on the Chargers. You know, we talk about how the Bills are cursed. Chargers are way worse than us, right?
Yes.
It's undeniable. And then you watch what's happened to the Chargers since then. Since that win over Kansas City in South America, their passing yards went from 304 week 1 to 270 to 236 to 186 to 185. Their turnovers went from 0 to 1 to 2 to 2 to 2. Now, Chris, they turn the ball over at least twice a game. They've now scored 20 points or less in 3 of their last 4 games, including 10 this last week. Everything, you talk about a tease. The Chargers really thought this was their year, and then they Chargers themselves. There was talk about, the Bills better be ready because the Chargers are going to be a tough out in the postseason. Now they might not even make it at this rate. It's insane. And then you know who might be the most down bad out of anybody this week in the NFL circles? Ravens fans. Ravens fans. So you finally got to see what your team looked like with no Lamar Jackson this past weekend. Chris, how'd that go?
Not good.
You want to talk about not good? Almost historically not good. Historic levels of not good. Zach Orr is like the main character in one of those old Southwest Airlines commercials where he's like, man, I really want to get away. I need to get the hell out of here. Chris, do you want to throw up the graphic about their EPA per play allowed? Because it's something I literally, you can't make this up. And I'm just catching up on the chat while Chris does this.
Well, we're talking about Cody Ford in the chat.
Oh, Cody Ford is still out there on the Bengals, making everybody's life miserable.
I had to let everyone know that Aaron Quinn was so mad that Cody Ford wore a tracksuit to his steakhouse.
Oh, yeah. Cody Ford showed up. Guys, for those of you listening on audio who didn't see it in the chat, Cody Ford, it's me, Greg Thompson from Cover One, Aaron Quinn from Cover One, and Chris. Chris showed up later, so he only heard, although you did see him.
I saw him leaving. I saw him in the parking lot.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's Cody Ford.
So we're out there waiting for our table in the parking lot of the Chop House. It's me, Greg, Aaron, and we're out there talking. And the funny thing was, Aaron was agonizing over his outfit because, like Jerry Seinfeld, Aaron Quinn doesn't own dress shoes. He only owns sneakers. And when I say sneakers, I mean white New Balances, like an old man.
Aaron Quinn likes a sport coat, jeans, shirt tucked in. Sneakers.
I don't even think he owns a sport coat. He was just like, well, I don't know what to wear. And we were like, dude, just throw a jacket on and go out there and show up at the steakhouse. I showed up with khakis and a button-down shirt because I'm classy. And Greg, probably being the most fashionable of all of us, had like nice jeans on, a sport coat, dress shoes, and that's acceptable in an environment like that. Meanwhile, here comes Cody Ford in sweatpants and a giant red t-shirt with like a hood on it. And I was like, what the fuck? The Kool-Aid man gets to walk in. And Aaron Quinn was the angriest because all day Aaron was like agonizing. I got to wear a button-down shirt and tuck it into my jeans and then wear my white New Balances. He looked like Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah.
And then here comes Cody Ford. And Aaron Quinn just exploded. He's like, why is it okay for him? But I can't do it. I go, you want to know why? Because he makes more than $1 million a year. He tips so well that he's allowed to dress like that. Until you have that, Aaron Quinn, you have to wear New Balances and jeans.
All right, and back to the Ravens. There it is. The Ravens defense over their 3-game losing streak. Last in EPA per dropback, last in dropback success rate, 31st in EPA per rush attempt, 27th in rushing success rate. You can see them all the way in the bottom left-hand corner.
At their current rate, the Ravens defense is going to give up 602 points. Do you know that that's the most in a single season in NFL history?
Checks out.
They are on pace right now as the Ravens to be the worst defense in NFL history. And they just traded away today the last of their like proven pass rush talent in Odafe Away. And they traded him to the Chargers. Because, everyone on offense is hurt. We might as well get a pass rusher, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good idea. Let's get a pass rusher. That'll fix this lack of offensive line action. That'll fix the running back situation. Do you want to be a Ravens fan today?
No.
Like,
I'm good.
Do you want to be a Bengals fan today?
No. I would have already killed myself if I lived in Cincinnati.
Well, yeah, it's Cincinnati. I mean, that's a rough one. Would you rather be a Miami Dolphins fan today?
No. I'll hang myself.
See, guys, the reason this exercise works is because when you punch down and you get petty, you realize how good you actually have it. I have an MVP quarterback. I have a defense that even when they do suck, you know what our team can do is score 30 points a game a lot of the time. And guess what yours can't do is probably score 30 points. So I'm good. I'm okay. I'm not thrilled. I don't love it, but here's where I am. So our final thoughts as we close this show out.
Whoa. Hold up there, buddy. If anybody in the chat listening to this knows that, after a loss, I got to go to the Rockpile Report. They do this thing where they go, people who have it worst. I'm going to tell you right now, that was the softest people who have it worst.
Because I could have gone Mark Sanchez and just been like, hey.
You could have gone. Chase Daniel put out a video of how it sounds in a headset for a quarterback. And Ben DiNucci ripped him a new one on Twitter. Like, coaches do not sound like this at all in the helmet. You know who else he could have gone with? Theo Vaughn. Theo Vaughn was a guest picker this week on game day. And there were a couple of segments shot not at the desk. And he was next to one of their college football reporters. And the segment was about to break. And Theo Vaughn shot his shot. He was like, "Oh, when am I going to see you again?" And she goes, she didn't even miss a beat. She goes, "Hopefully never." She got
shut down on national TV. All right.
Yeah.
Nobody has it worse than Theo Vaughn.
Oh, and then the last one, obviously you just said it. Mark Sanchez. How do you not bring Sanchez into this?
I was trying to be nice.
No.
I was trying to be nice.
No. Look at.
I'm garbage, but I was trying to be nice.
Look at this. He is crisp from Kindergarten Cop. Mark Sanchez is crisp from Kindergarten Cop. Stabbing in Indianapolis? Are you kidding me? Dude, he's no longer going to be employed by Fox. That's a given. He's done calling NFL games.
Oh my God,
he is screwed for the rest of his life. No one has it worse right now than Mark Sanchez.
Hey, whoa.
He's probably handcuffed to a hospital bed right now.
Whoa. If you believe Kurt Warner, he doesn't deserve to lose his job. He can lose his freedom, guys, but the network better not fire.
God, yeah.
We live in hilarious times.
No, dude.
Guys,
look at that again. Look at that again. I'll pull it up. I can't pull it up.
So, Joe Fryer, butt fumble's not the worst day of Sanchez's life.
Sanchez, look at that. Sanchez is crisp from Kindergarten Cop.
He's throwing it up again.
He is crisp from Kindergarten Cop.
Guys, we're not good people. We never claim to be. What we are is passionate Bills fans who are petty as hell, and we like to drink. And Chris, what I love is I went through my list. I talked my talk. I punched down. And then Chris came in like a hammer from the other side and was like, no, we can be worse. We can go lower. I need you all to know that.
We have to go lower.
The guy behind me at the stadium who was mad at me for all the things, the nasty things I said about Sean Hockley. Oh, it gets worse. Stick around. Hang out. Chris, if I have to wrap this show, the construction of this team, deliberate decision-making from March and April of 2025 has let this coaching staff kind of left them in the lurch with a lot of work to do. The good news is that trying to figure out who you are defensively throughout the course of a season, the numbers prove it's possible. You can go from 0 to hero in terms of overall defense pretty quickly. You can ramp up at the right time and stiffen up towards the end of a season and find yourself. And there's been a lot of teams that have gone on a lot of runs. Think about Chris, every single one of the Giants teams that won the Super Bowl didn't win their division.
Mm-hmm.
The Eli Manning Super Bowl teams that
I think we were like 9-7.
that didn't win their division, and yet it didn't matter because their defense got hot when it mattered. We have the pieces. We know that. We've seen them perform. So I think that they have a lot to work on to get right and field a defensive unit that can go out there and compete for a Super Bowl title. I question whether the guys are up to the task. I mean, Joe Brady, is he up to the task of tent poling the talent like we talked about last week, where you've got some really talented players surrounded by a bunch of guys who don't have much, and you have to use scheme to make them important? Can you do that on a consistent basis? I don't know. You have to go out and put up another 30-burger on a good defense because you know your defense might not get that. Well, you're going out there to play. You have to go out there and play the Falcons, who are leading in a lot of odd categories. And actually, for tonight's our preview show, we talked about it with the guest, and we talked about the statistical discord between points allowed, points given up, yards given up, points allowed for the Falcons. It was a good conversation, but Joe Brady has a lot on his plate. Tana Wanstead, is he, as a linebacker and safeties coach, up to the task of figuring out, okay, the structure's broken. We can't do the things that we used to do. We can't run this defense the way that we used to run it under Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott. And also, I can't have Matt Milano being a passenger for this. He's got to be aggressive, even if I am worried about him getting hurt. I've got to be willing to put him in the gap and let him be explosive and let him be aggressive and use him to the fullest of his abilities. Is McDermott the James Franklin of the NFL? That's a real question that Brett Coleman sent me after Sunday night's game.
That's a real comp.
James Franklin, for those of you who don't get the NCAA comp, is the guy who seems to have it all going for him.
I think he's like 1-18 against like top 10 teams in the Big Ten.
Yep. He's a guy who gets a lot of love. He does a lot of things, and yet it never works out for him. And it always fails heartbreakingly. And you look at it and you go, is that just who Sean McDermott is? Is he just the guy who he's good enough to get you close, but he's not the guy? We don't know. But that can't, again, I didn't come up with that. That was a question from Brett Coleman from Bootleg Football and NFL Network fame. But I don't know. What I do know is the AFC East doesn't look like it's a slam dunk anymore. It's not. And while you can give me all the sound bites about how we're going to learn from this, like Sean McDermott did, the reality is the world is catching up to Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. So you still have a window, but that window is getting tight because other people have had time to amass picks and amass cap space and draft guys and maybe draft a quarterback in Drake Maye who, Chris, some of those plays he made were clutch.
Yes.
I don't want to say like, oh, Maye made this and he made that. Clutch. I don't know. It's up to Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills coaching staff where they go from here. As Buddy Nix once famously said, don't tell me about the labor pains, just show me the baby. It's that with this coaching staff and roster. I'm tired of hearing about how hard it is and about how you're trying to navigate the cap and you're doing this and you're doing that. You've done all this. You all have collectively colluded to build this thing the way that it's currently iterated. So stop telling me about all the things I can see with my eyes, plain as day. Do your jobs and get it fixed. Or don't. And waste another year of one of the NFL's preeminent talents and most compelling athletes of all time. I don't know. At least for this week, though, we're still not alone on top for the AFC and AFC East. Like you look at what's going on. KC is 2 weeks behind you. The Ravens are in shambles. The Chargers are deteriorating in front of your eyes. The Jaguars are somehow the most dynamic team in terms of they're leading the NFL in takeaways on defense. Their offense is scoring points. They look great, and yet they're so painfully thin that the rigors of an NFL season can still undo them. And then there's also this, Chris. Put the tweet up there. You want to say everyone who woke up this morning and called WGR to talk about, oh, I'm really worried about these guys. I'm really worried about what the Jacksonville Jaguars might do to the Buffalo Bills. I have this to lean back on, where I look at it and I go, holy shit, Trevor Lawrence's last 15 minutes of that game, he picked a booger on national TV. He blew 40 seconds running around 25 yards to gain 3 yards with 1:40 left. Hits a deep hole shot to Brian Thomas on a gotta have it down. It's an electric play. Immediately takes a delay of game penalty. Throws a game-losing pick but gets bailed out on pass interference. And then trips over his center and scrambles around like Tom and Jerry and somehow ends up in the end zone for a game-winning touchdown. I don't think that they're composed enough to capture that every week. Meanwhile, we're here as the Buffalo Bills, Chris. Put up the last graphic. The last one there about what happens to the Buffalo Bills every week 5 for the last 3 seasons. Guys, this isn't new. And I was shocked when I saw it with my own 2 eyes. The Buffalo Bills have gotten it, just had one of these dog water games. These games of, oh my God, what did I just watch? The Buffalo Bills lost 25-20. And they lost 23-20. And now they've lost 23-20. Again, for a second consecutive season in week 5. Chris, didn't we go on heroic runs after that?
We did.
So it's almost like the sky hasn't fallen, right? Like I'm not Hudson from the movie Alien. It's not over, man. But your margin for error as a franchise just got a lot narrower. Respect it. Respect that and get your asses back to work so I don't have to hear anymore about these goddamn labor pains. That's it. It's all I can hope for from Brandon Beane, Josh Allen, Sean McDermott. I don't want to hear any more about the labor pains. Now, I love you guys, but Chris has been asking me to wrap it up for about 7 minutes. I'm happy. Thank you to everybody who showed up for the live show. Thank you to everybody who's watching us after the fact and listening at home, but we got to get the hell out of here. I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Kruger. These are your 4-1 Buffalo Bills, and this is your Rockpile Report. See?